Good morning, sports fans. My name is Dr. Chandra Jagger, and my specialty is ADB, which is another dumb blonde. My field is medical research, and my therapist told me that I had to get angry, so I was angry when angry wasn't cool. That's a Barbara Mandrell drunk driving reference. In the 80s, I saw an article about this big in a newspaper that said somewhere in the eastern United States, in a biolab, an assistant, a research assistant, somebody who's not a doctor, was working in a lab where they were trying to develop a virus that was immune to all treatments for viruses. Why would they do this? Sounds stupid. Oh, it's for research. Okay. Amazingly, a little later from the East Coast came the AIDS virus, which was immune to everything and actually attacked the immune cells to go inside them and replicate itself, which sounds like deliberate evil. But I'm not allowed to say anything anymore, so I'll just leave that. This is a fact. It was in the newspaper, so it's a fact. When the experiment was over, threw them down the sink and rinsed out the containers and went on with his workday. This is stupid. It's irresponsible. It's not supposed to happen in any biolab anyway, especially when you're modifying viruses so that they will be immune to all treatments. This, in my mind, goes along with the fact that supposedly those who are trying to take over the world have to tell us what they're doing before they do it. To be fair, I guess, because for them it's some kind of game. Interesting. And lately, somewhere in the eastern United States, which must be where all the stupid people are, an assistant lab worker who was not a doctor discovered in the back of a freezer that he was defrosting 6 vials of smallpox. Now, there's supposed to be 1 vial of smallpox, hard frozen and behind 26 locked doors at the CDC, in case in the future sometime when this was decided they needed the virus to actually work on a cure for a spread of the new plague of smallpox. So what are the 6 vials doing in the back of a freezer in the small lab in the middle of nowhere? And why discovered now in the middle of the pandemic? Also in the eastern United States, in a biolab between these 2 events, I don't remember the date, a lab worker assistant discovered in a freezer 1 bottle of bubonic plague. Now, the bubonic plague is supposed to be in 1 vial in the deepest, darkest vault of the CDC, just in case. Now, why are we discovering these accidentally mislocated and frozen vials of deadly viruses. Why now in the pandemic years? AIDS was spread by mostly sexual contact. So if you, in the field of insects, when you want to get rid of insects, you attack them when and where they reproduce. So they will take female scent hormones and put them all over poisons, and the males will come running in and get killed. The AIDS was killing people through sexual contact, which is when they're trying to reproduce. And I think 2014-ish, two things happened in Alaska where they buried the dead bodies of the 1918 flu. The land was thawing out and the bodies were becoming exposed, which is a danger because viruses can live through freezing. And a separate article, within a few months, men in those white hazard suits were digging up some of these bodies to get samples of the virus, just in case it happened again, so they could do this theoretical preemptive research like they were saying they were doing in Wuhan. Interesting. Atomic war didn't work out because the effects of atomic war give us 2 to 10 years of no sun because of the dust, and then 25,000 years of radiation giving us people with 2 heads and 5 arms. And viral war and chemical war was banned because it was just too horrific to contemplate. But now that there's a planet full of useless eaters, according to Henry Kissinger, it might be expedient to pare down the population. I think the word for these people is eugenicists. They think it's okay to limit the population without asking them if it's okay. And if you want to eliminate someone's lifetime without asking them if okay, it's called murder, which is illegal. Which leads me to the thought I had 3 seconds before I started this video. The biggest source of death for humans on this planet is governments. Governments. It's not heart attacks, it's not cancer, it's death by government. And at this juncture, which is March 2022, we have some group of people, and possibly they might be governments, a lot of them are billionaires, have decided to change the world to a world with far less population and using artificial intelligence to solve problems of survival, to make the world a different kind of paradise with a lot less people. To this time, technology has been used to allow us to feed and house more people. now it's going to be used against people, which was put out in a book called 1984, which is one of the playbooks these people are running on. The other playbook is called Propaganda, which is written by Sigmund Freud's son. And propaganda was initially used in advertising to manipulate people into buying stuff, and now it's being used on people to modify their political opinions, and promulgated, which is a fancy word for disseminated or dispersed, by the greatest machine for communication ever invented by humans, which is television and the internet. And now everyone on the planet can be reached, say, from the front seat of their car. Or if you're a corporation, you can control millions of television screens and computer screens. So what we have now is a group of eugenicists, and they are narcissists or psychopaths and or both, deciding to make the world in their image, being disseminated by what's called the legacy media, the big six information news networks, which were under mandates to tell the news. And used to be laws that you couldn't own vast chunks of this stuff because you could use it to promulgate, is your new word, your opinion, and that is not happening. There's 3 or 6 big companies in the United States that own all the media, and 1 or 2 in England, and they're all owned by billionaires who seem to be not somebody you'd want for your friend or lover. So we have things like, because I own a medical research company, so if you want to fact check me, I'll take you to court, because these are built on medical facts. The doctor in South Africa who discovered, in quotation marks, the Omicron strain, probably did that to get famous. But he said, and if you want to contest me, I will send you the URL of his video, that this is mild, and it is a variant of COVID-19, and we send the people home with ibuprofen. That went across the net like a machine gun. Every country, every channel had the same thing. Oh my God, Omicron, oh my God, Omicron. Went worldwide. I don't think there's a vaccine for that. Now we have monkeypox, which is a very rare viral disease, which is found among monkeys. It is possible for a human being to catch it if there's any direct contact, or if you're picking up monkey poop, or having sex with a monkey, or drinking monkey blood, as was supposedly the source of the AIDS virus. Now it's gone worldwide, the same as Omicron, which was in South Africa, and suddenly everywhere. And now we have Omicron, which was who knows where in Africa, and suddenly it's everywhere. And suddenly the United States went, oh my God, in a freezer somewhere in the eastern seaboard, a lab technician discovered a stockpile of vaccine for monkeypox. If you follow the trail of this vaccine madness, you'll realize this is stuff even our moms wouldn't let it get us away with. Get away with this logic. So I'll betcha my Tesla. My Tesla sounds like a poem. That monkeypox will replace COVID-19 as an emergency, and everyone will be required under the new lockdown, which I assure you is coming, to be vaccinated for monkeypox. And this is the final straw on getting to the anti-vaxxers. We're going to come to your house. We're going to forcibly vaccinate you and take your guns while we're at it. Just this morning, Parliament in Canada passed a bill they call C11, which will allow them to control content on the internet. Just yesterday in Canada, the Quebec, the province that speaks French, although they speak French from Ontario all the way over to Newfoundland, which is half the country, has decided this is a language bill where you have to do all business in French. They're doing this to divide the country again, like they were doing in the 60s. Quebec is always the same old thing. We want language rights. If you don't give us what we want, we'll join the United States and break Canada up. And because all the railways and highways go through here, they'll really screw you up. Ha ha. And they get what they want. It's been going on my entire life. Justin Trudeau is MP from Quebec somewhere. He speaks French. I don't, because the French teachers in the western half of Canada are not appreciated, and generally very angry because they're not appreciated. And I took Latin instead because I was going into science, so I could read scientific papers and read ancient literature from 2,000 years ago? So I can't get a government job and get that great government pension at the end. You have to speak French to work in the civil service there. Also, we have the return of bird flu. So they killed 22,000 chickens within 60 miles of me, which means no chicken wings, no chicken thighs, no roast chicken, no eggs, no baby chickens. And last year we had weather so bad it knocked out 4 of the 5 highways coming in here, and almost took out the natural gas pipeline. And in further news, I believe they're testing the weather weapons in Ontario. The horrific storm there is exactly what you see when they test the weather weapons. They did this all over Europe, down as far as south as the Arabic nations. There was snow and hail and floods in the desert countries. So that's going to be piled on top of October 25th, 2023, next year is summer, just amazingly the month before the U.S. elections. The outer 4 gas giants will line up in such a way that their gravity will affect the Earth. And just before that, the Earth will be protected behind the sun, and it'll come out from behind the sun. And when gravitic events take place, there's a quick wobble as they connect, and that quick wobble will be enough to burst open the earth and the volcanoes. And if this is under the ocean, you're going to get tsunamis, which, according to the science of this event, and this event happens every 10,000 years. Noah's flood was one of these, 20,000 years ago, verified by geologists. It happened. You get a wave that it could be 12,000 feet high, going hundreds of miles per hour, which is why there's no remnant of past civilizations, because we tend to cluster along. I'm what, 65 feet from the river here. I'm about not even 20 feet above sea level. If a tsunami comes in here, this river, the 4-foot tide goes up 50 miles. So a tsunami that was, I don't know, 90 feet high would probably go 100 miles up the river, which is where the mountains are. So it would just come in and go wash up in the mountains. Everything here would be gone. So you have that to look forward to. So on top of that, which would be like end times, they'll be using weather weapons, and this is to subdue and get rid of the population. And after that, we'll have the Great Reset, where the Antichrist will come out and say, I can put all this back together if you just give up your individual country freedoms and become part of the new world order. And people will have to do it because civilization will have been destroyed on a worldwide basis. And this happens every 10,000 years, and there are legacy families, them, who know this, and they babysit the world through the eons. There's a disaster that happens every 400 years. There's a pandemic every 100 years, and these participate changes of governments, changes of kings, changes of nations. That's who they are. And records I have, this goes back 20,000 years, at least, and probably 70 million years. This is the plight of the beings on planet Earth, to unknowingly be part of this game. Well, this is a lot of information in one video. But I've been working on this since I was 8 years old, so that makes, what was that, 1955? So this is pre-Elvis research up until now. Sadly, this is absolutely and completely unnecessary. This is being done by a group of people, probably 200 people, who want to do this. I am very suspicious of the G7 and the G20 countries, and what is the reason they would never, ever, ever let anybody in to report on what actually happened. And no one ever, ever, ever was able to sneak a microphone into a chandelier and hear what happened. They had a meeting here, and they had police in riot gear. They had barbed wire fences, and people were rocking on the fences and fighting with the military police. And this is Canada. And that was like, I don't know, 20 years ago. And we're nice. Because people had a sneaking suspicion that what was going on in there was not good for the people. And they said, just let us listen to what you're talking about. And they went, oh, no, no, no. Although we're talking about you and your future, and we are your elected representatives paid by you, you cannot know what we talk about. That's just the definition of conspiracy. A bunch of people in a room talking about other people and what they're going to do to handle their the exterior situation. A couple of other things. These people tell us what they're going to do, and then they do it. One of the things was we need to take control of 5 countries in the Middle East. And they started with Libya, then they did Egypt, then they did Iraq, and they're working on Syria, and they're kind of afraid to poke Iran. But that happened. They raised holy hell through those 5 countries. Another thing is they said we want to make the U.S. like Russia and Russia like the U.S. So I think you can quite easily see that the U.S. is heading towards socialism, communism, and this war in Ukraine may be the excuse used for the Russian people to revolt against socialism, communism, whatever they have over there, and demand democracy, free elections, and freedom of speech. And then that would be accomplished, and everybody, oh, great, Russia's gone democratic. But it's part of a plan. And the book 1984 is an absolute must-read for anyone who wants to survive through this. In that book, they clearly state that the war is continuous, and the war is fought by the government against its own citizens. And the form it takes in the book is there are 3 units of power. One is called INGSOC, which is short for English Society. This book was written by an Englishman. North America was completely left out of this book. Eurasia, which is Europe, and Russia, and East Asia, which is China. And these 3 entities are constantly involved in war, 2 against 1, 2 good ones against the evil one. And in the book, they switch, and sometimes overnight, and they just change the news. This whole thing was about the population being controlled by and informed by the news. And the book is from the viewpoint of a character who works in a news. I guess he's a filing system for the news, and he keeps getting contrary information that he's supposed to change the files, and that A is B, and this person who's a hero is now a criminal. Sounds a lot like now. So we sit here with our TV screens with the big legacy media telling us what's right and wrong, and our computer screens telling us what's right and wrong, and if you say anything against the narrative, you get bounced off. The big ones and the small ones have no reach. I mean, they are allowed to put out what you think is the truth, but no one sees it. I had a presence on a major platform, and I had 1.2 million views, and I put the same stuff on the other media, and I have 4 views, or maybe 30 at the most. And to those who are participating and don't know history, you are sucked into this by being given a compelling moral imperative to usher in the paradise. And what you don't know is after this paradise is ushered in, you'll be the first people to be singled out and shot in front of a firing squad because you're obviously can't be trusted because you committed treason on your civilization. Hitler did this to his brown shirts. They were ex-World War II military guys who thought he was the greatest thing since sliced Bavarian cheese. And after they got him into power, he had to get rid of them because they were a very powerful group that he could barely control. So this is, it's only Wednesday. I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. Listening for the sound of the new told lies. That's a quote from Hair. Hi, bird. I talk to the birds because if you're not nice to them, they poop on your car. So things are going to get horrifically bad. Not just bad, horrifically bad. No food, no heat, no electricity, disease, people banging on your door, roving mobs looking for food. And who could survive that? After Hurricane Katrina devastated the South, one of the news commentators said, how could we ever face World War III or an invasion because we can't even handle weather? So, like everyone else who does this, prepare. You're going to need 2 to 4, probably now I say 4, but 2 years of food, storable food, don't tell anybody. A way to filter water. Dandelion is the best natural medicine, sort of covers almost everything, so actually plant dandelions instead of putting Roundup on them. Food. If you have 2 cars, sell the one that's not an SUV and buy food with it. And put it in Mylar bags in sealed food grade 5-gallon drums. And you're going to need spices to go with that, otherwise it's going to get really boring. Cooking utensils that will work over a fire, matches, flashlights, solar powered anything. And you have 18 months left. Get out of the city. Where I am, there's 1.2 million people. And if there's an earthquake here, all 4 bridges will fall down. There'll be 1 highway, if we're lucky. It's very, very low down, right by the river. No food, no water, no electricity. It's going to get really bad on the 4th day. First 3 days will be looting the stores. And then they turn elsewhere. I have a SUV that I'm in. I've put all my money into making sure this is ship shape. I'm going to get a trailer hitch, and then if I'm lucky, I can put all my belongings in here in the trailer and get out of town. Get out of Dodge. People in the alternative media have been jumping up and down and warning about this for pick any amount of decades. Definitely the last 20 years, like with Alex Jones and Glenn Beck. People of that skill set, and unfortunately they get more and more crimped. We only have one anti-establishment guy here in Canada. It's called Rebel News. He was on TV nationally, and then no, you can only be locally. So he was on TV locally. And went, no, this is too hot. You can only be on cable. So he was on cable, and then they said you can't be on cable. So now he's a private subscription only. And he's the only person in Canada who's taking the socialist crazies to court and winning. He's doing something. In Canada, we actually have some judges who will listen to an argument and say, you're wrong, he is right. Decided for the plaintiff. Based on something which is used to be very valuable in the United States, but now has no value at all. This is called, it's a 4-letter word, facts. Actually, it's a 5-letter word. I wanted to say something about what happened here, but I can't because they'll come and get me. It's gone that far. I may not speak. I may not squeak. And a phrase which I coined from my knowledge of history is it's always a woman who brings down an empire. So if there are any ladies listening to this broadcast, pun intended, get busy, because it might be you. You never know. Joan of Arc, Madame Curie, Cleopatra. Josephine. That's a good example. Let them eat cake. Oh yeah, French Revolution. I think that's it. I'm now rantless. I wish I could touch this camera and just turn it around and show you where I am, because it's very peaceful. There's a button on it to reverse the view, but I think it would just stop the video. So we will try this instead and see what we get. I have to go outside to see that. But that's the river I'm always talking about. The river of no return. back a little bit. Maybe we can get more river and less dash. Okay, that was my best van of white. That tugboat was faster than I thought it would be. Usually they're pretty slow. But they're smart. They go upriver when the tide's coming and then they pull their load. It'd be important, the expression, on the way down. So there, you can screenshot the river and enjoy life. This is Dr. Chandra Jagger from above the 49th parallel, where it's really hot today. It's 18 degrees centigrade. Overcast. With a chance of meatballs, just the way we like it.